enjoy the show. Play on my China.
It's so weird. You're not wearing the hat today. I've only ever seen you in a hat. I was pretty sure you didn't have hair.
I had hair. Just it's very messy. Trying to grow this out.
Yeah, I know. I had somebody I stopped at a Citadel the other day when I sold one of my new books, Picture Perfect Small Towns, Delco Volume 1, which you local people may have seen in the Delaware County Daily Times. And guess what? You're going to see me in the Philadelphia Inquirer as well as on CBS News. So more and more interviews are coming up for the books. We got the Party at the Park, September 7th, for the Timothy J. Bucarell Foundation. We got our first event going on for suicide prevention. It's going to be a great time. We got our first vendor out there that aren't one of my friends, or the massive amount of people who are volunteering their time. And we are still looking for volunteers as well. Go ahead over to the Party at the Park Facebook page, which will be a link in the description when I release this, because it will be before the park. And let us know if you want to be a volunteer, if you have a vendor table that you want to be out there. Let me know, man, because this is a huge party that it is not on Memorial Day weekend. It's the weekend after. So everybody should be home by then. So hopefully.
Yeah.
So that's what we got going on in the future. Right now, we got a silly little podcast to get to. How have you been, sir?
I've been good, man. I've been good.
The news out of your camp is good, especially that one you messaged me last night. Oh my God, if you get that, that's gonna be great.
Oh wow, yeah, that's gonna be
A little bit of foreshadowing here for you guys at home, gang, but this man, always fucking working.
I'd say I'm a man that always goes fishing. When you're trapped in a small town, man, there's no industry. Like there's no industry in Biloxi. There's a film. There's a sort of a film presence in Jackson, and then of course, Morgan Freeman's got a small jazz blues here in town.
Yeah.
And he's from this area, and he's filmed. There's been some movies that have been filmed, film locations, but no like central production studio. You can't just drive on to Acme here. There's no Hollywood studios. There's
that's the thing, though,
nothing.
Because that used to be Philadelphia. Because Philadelphia had nowhere. Okay,
Yeah.
And then M. Night and more filmmakers started shooting in Philly. Now, the place where I used to play indoor soccer at, Sun Center, that's now a production studio, Sun Center Studios. I'm pretty sure, if I'm remembering correctly, Chris Pierdomenico, director of Delco the movie, he actually used them or works with them sometimes.
Yeah.
I forget the details, but production, like around the corner from my house, like in Delco.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's that kind of weird stuff that's like, oh my God, what do we have here in Delaware County?
Yeah,
There's two wildlife preserves.
It's that weird thing when you start going fishing, or like you want to make films or you want to write comics, and you're supposed to go to these central hubs, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to make comics, you go to the Dark Horse in, I believe it's Ohio is where they're out of, or you go to New York, or you go to L.A. If you want to make films, you go to L.A. or you go to New York.
Besides, like,
City.
Well, you got Atlanta because Marvel's out of Atlanta.
Yeah.
But that's like, oh.
I mean, for me, that's 6 hours away, but that's a huge lifestyle change. I live out in the country, man. I'm like,
yeah. It's I get that because I was country life. I lived out in Oxford for a good bit of time, and there's nothing. It's hours and hours if you want to get anywhere, and that's just to where comfort, people around me who are like me, like getting to Hollywood types. That is rough if you don't live in those select areas.
Yeah, and not to say that Hollywood types are fickle people. They're different people. Their minds function differently. So when you're raised in a rural or a small town area, your mind tends to be slightly slower. Take things one at a time. People who live in busy cities are like ADHD patients at a clinic. Their mind is everywhere all the time.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's the most efficient way to think. After I did my internship with Smart Media, I learned that not every Hollywood type is a true blue asshole, cut to the chase type of, if you don't have what it takes, get the fuck out of my face type of person.
Right.
A lot of them are understanding and willing to give advice. So I've had to like build industry and connections and stuff And I was just shopping around on LinkedIn, man, and someone was looking for a short novel, and they're like, "We got this writer who wrote the script for Fighter, which had Mark Wahlberg and shit in it, and if we get this, then we might have him write a script based on your short film or your short novella." I was like, "Oh shit!"
That's awesome.
So I called him. I called him today, and I got the voicemail. So hopefully I call him tomorrow. But in the same sense, man, our Writers Guild meeting is next week, and I got to contact this gentleman. This is a horror film called Gigi, written by C.P. Allen, and it originally started as a novel, which was adapted for a film and picked up by Amazon.
Oh.
And he lives right here in Pass Christian, Mississippi, where it was filmed in the kiln. It's an amazing movie, and it got picked up, so he's going to come talk to our group about, how to get your book off the shelf and into theaters.
Oh, that's great.
Not necessarily theaters, but into streaming services and how that process works.
Especially with fans and former guests of the show. I see, I'm following a project that Johnny Necro's doing. I'm following, Jason Pitts. I'm following Injetta Anthony. I'm looking at all the stuff our amazing guests on Tales of the Hunted have done. And I see those people out there making those moves. And this is what you're talking about. It's almost like a way of how to get to their level. Because they're out there writing and doing these indie movies and getting them on Trauma Now. They're getting them on, Roku or wherever they can, Amazon, so people have the chance. Just like former guest of Triforce podcast, Tony Brown. I'm going to have him on again very soon. Drown the Clown. One of the first times I could watch a movie that my friend was in right on a streaming service. And he was like the secondary character to the main protagonist, who was a female. And it was a good movie. It wasn't, high budget, anything like that, but it was interesting. You're like, all right, where are you going? Yeah. So it's that kind of stuff that we always talk about in Indie on Tales of the Hunted and stuff like that. But to be able to get to be that person in indie, like, hey, I have a movie out. How'd you get there? Well, I wrote a book. How'd you make a book? I went to Ingram. I went to Amazon. Oh, that's it? That's it.
It's persistence, man. That's the game. That's the secret sauce. Between the guests you've interviewed, the guests that I've interviewed, that seems to be the commonality. It's persistence.
It is, and that's the key tying factor. But even the difference between even what I'm doing right now with my books and your books, I find mine easier to do because the written word to write something eloquently and properly takes time, it takes study, and if you're going out there in a professional sense, much like me being the underdog jack of all trades, it takes persistence because you're going to get beat out by people who have actual, I went to this college for this job credentials and experience.
That's true. I mean, it could be true. In some instances, it is true. However, for those who lack the skill, I always find that there are 2 or 3 people in the room who not really don't deserve to be there, but who got there by showing the integrity and discipline of networking and staying consistent with keeping in touch with people, not necessarily having the skill to do the job.
Right.
And they talk about this in comics all the time, especially Andy Schmidt back in class when I was doing intro to comics writing, your comics experience. He talked about it's not necessarily being the best writer in the room, it's being the one that's available at the right time. So it takes a little bit of luck and a little bit of skill and a lot of persistence.
Oh, yeah, 100%. But that's also the thing of the persistence will pay off. And especially when you're working a job and you have a passion on the side. I've been there for over a decade, right? It's really hard to tap back into that. You have to have. It's just like me with podcasting. I got to keep doing it. I'll get rusty, And, it's just like as I'm getting interviewed, I'm usually the interviewer. And it's different, So expanding out, staying out of your comfort zone is probably, I'd say, number 2. Because if you're comfortable, you're not learning and you're not expanding and you're not growing.
Oh,
and then you become
you have to get
stagnant.
out of your comfort zone, man. Do you
Oh,
think that we would still be here if Neanderthals wouldn't have like got out the cave and like went to go check shit out?
dude, I have so many stories on ancient stuff.
I mean, yeah, I know. I read the articles earlier,
You
and
know, it's
that's why I'm
just
making
like,
that segue move now.
you're
But it's
right.
like the crew. It's like he
Yeah.
wanted to stay in the cave, and his daughter wanted to go out into the world.
Mhm.
They would have died in that cave had they not have left. So don't die in your cave. Leave your cave and get your shit together.
Yeah.
That's the only way you got dreams happen, man.
What's the what's the quote I always see is luck is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's it. You have to prepare for these moments, you know? I'm not getting
Yeah, you have to
interviewed because I look good.
Yeah. Let's clear the air. You can't just come out of your cave and expect the heavenly light of God to shine on you and glory just happens. Okay. You do have to
Well,
trek through the desert and do, your time. Yeah,
you know,
even Jesus did his, 30, 40-day fast in the desert.
and I think
Like,
everybody has had that moment, like from Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, when Chris Rock falls from the ground and Jay goes, "Beautiful big titty women don't just fall from the sky, you know." Don't be that guy who's also
yeah,
like,
don't be that.
"Hey, he got that great thing that came out of nowhere. What about me?" Work
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah, thou shalt not covet. Be happy for those people. Be happy for those people. Those
Yes.
same people will be happy for you if you show like true happiness. Like, don't be jealous.
And you know what,
You know,
though?
that-
You're right. Because even on those Delaware County, the Delco Times article, it was over like 35 people who reached out like, "Oh my God, so proud of you, so happy for you." It's that's the payoff of being a good person. Oh my God. But yeah, that's the payoff of being a good person, is having people say, "You know, this guy's not a dick. All right, let's bring him in." And you get that foot in the door because, hey, we can work with him. He's a good guy and he's coachable. That's half the problem with most people's staff to date.
That's half the problem with a lot of the wrestlers that walk into organizations and want to be champion. They're not coachable. But while we're on the subject of success, one of the things of success is actually being able to take notes. But aside from persistence and then also being prepared, there's also surrounding yourself with people who don't fuck off their time.
Mm-hmm.
We're also doing the same thing you are.
Yes.
So if your friends are sitting around getting high, you're getting fucking drunk all the time, playing too many video games.
You're doing it wrong because you need
Yeah.
to be getting together as creatives, getting high and getting drunk together to make a project. And that's going to be better than fucking Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. All right. You're
Yeah, I
welcome.
say that, and then we do like a group analysis on success. And like, let's look at Adam Sandler and his group of friends. They all did all that shit together. Sure.
All right, you got one there. You got one there.
The only way Grandma's Boy was ever produced, and then maybe every Jay and Silent Bob movie ever.
Yeah.
Before he quit smoking weed after his heart attack.
Yeah, man.
yeah.
It's one of those things though. Like you look at the great person and you look at their friends and you're like, I forget who. I think it was a friend of Jill's that I'm gonna try to get on the podcast. He's just I'm not gonna say his whole post, but he pretty much said like, most of you have the wrong friends. And it was essentially of like, you make a comment on your friend's post and then you get questionable stuff from their friends and you're like, how did you people fall this far? I know all of you. What did you do? But it's
I do a lot of that on my
tribalism.
social media. I post some outrageous conspiracy shit, and then I'll post a legitimate political pic. Then I'll post something in comics, and then whoever comments, I know who's looking at what when I post things.
I really think that there's a premise there for a slice of life Neanderthal comic, because we're learning more and more stuff about them, right? And there's a lot of stuff out there. I think that you could really do like that Game of Thrones kind of real soap opera-y like tale of Neanderthal life, but you just write normal people. Because humans don't change, right? So if we don't change, and, you know, we do have Neanderthal DNA in ours. We mixed.
Yeah.
And we kicked them out. We still don't know what happened to the Neanderthals. Have you met a Homo sapien? They kicked them the fuck out after they fucked his wife. Like, all right, get out. We don't need you. Yo, no, you stay. You stay. That's fine.
Yeah, I don't. I'm pretty sure because there was what six, maybe seven species of Homo pithecus,
and
then Homo pithecus. But
the one thing I saw today, which I didn't add in there, is that they found a Homo sapien skeleton that walked upright. It was something like over 200, and I think it was like 210 fucking million years ago. Where they still predicted we're up in the fucking trees. And they're like, ah, shit, we found one. He's standing upright. There's a lot of stuff you don't know about that early age when they didn't have writing. They passed down traditions. Guess what that got turned into? Mythology. And as the people moved around, the names changed. Easiest way to look at that, look at the Greeks and the Romans. They literally copied the Greeks' homework. Like, no, you can't do that. Just change the names. Change the names.
Most Neanderthals were bipedal, though.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's the thing that they're learning. Damn, there were actually a lot of bipedals because Neanderthals were around for like 300,000 years.
Yeah. I was
and the one they found a liar, like not like politician, like
I was
a
talking
liar.
hardcore theology with my boss at work, and she was like, "I would believe in God if someone could answer this one question for me," and that question was, Adam and Eve were the first, and this has to do with Neanderthals. I'll tie that in a minute.
Yep.
Adam and Eve were the first, and their kids were Cain and Abel.
Mm-hmm.
Cain killed Abel. How the hell was he able to find a wife when he was banished to the land of Nod? Mm-hmm. If there weren't other humans or bipedals or Neanderthals on the planet.
Without sounding something ridiculous like God just making somebody out of mud, I don't know. That's a good question.
And if you go deeper into the Egyptology and the symbology behind Egyptology, you know they often reference the land of Duat.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so the land of Duat, and yeah, was west of Kemet. What if Duat was America?
Well, you look at Plato.
I mean, sea levels were different right there.
What we were
still
talking
land
about
bridges.
in all our podcasts. Like, you look at Plato. People trust Plato. All right, Atlantis, it was there. When did it happen? Well, when it was heard about it was about like 9,000 years ago when that guy heard it. And then when you look at the time, it was right around Younger Dryas. So it's that continuation of past events, because a parent is always going to try to help. I'm not going to say always. ASEs and automotive testing, never go with always, unless, and you can't, anything, like all cars have four wheels. No, they don't. You ever heard of the Reliant Robin? It was a 3-wheeled vehicle that tipped over all the time. It was out and overseas, not here, thank God. But
hey, most of India's 3-wheeled vehicle.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is always no. But a parent, more likely than not, is going to want their child to survive. We're not like, better start running or I'm going to eat you. You know what I mean? We evolved past that, and there is that thing with mammals that you even see in mammals of all kinds, chimps, elephants, name a fucking animal here. Shit, even tigers and lions have some sense of motherly and, paternal right to their child. So when you look at this from an ancient human standpoint, you're going to want to do what's best for your child. How are you going to tell your child to be scared of things at night because they can kill you? You're going to start creating things like the Celts did. Hey, you see a nymph? Run. It wants to kill you. The gods, don't piss off Hera. Good luck trying not to piss her off. If you're a woman, it's almost impossible because Zeus turned into a swan and fucked you or some shit, and now you have a kid, and that's just weird. Or bull, or
wife is a snake.
Greek mythology is even more fucked up, but they go through like Arachne. psyche, you know, the bees, and how'd you get a bee? Somebody questioned the gods. How'd you get a spider? She said she could sling silk and, you know, or tapestries better than Athena. What'd she do? Athena turned her into a spider. That's why we got those. Like,
I think stories like that were really like to ward off people boasting. Like, don't
Little humility.
oversell your own skill set. Yeah, don't over fucking do it. But like, I'm as strong as Hercules. Let's back down just a little. You're strong. You're strong. I get it. You're excited, but just
I can play an instrument better than Apollo, and Apollo comes up like, "Oh, really, bitch? Can you?"
Yeah.
I don't think so. They were very spiteful. But look at early God. Very spiteful. Do not.
That's when the Fate twins are running around invisibly. And just
Sodom and Gomorrah, he was just like, look, don't turn back because there's nothing but wreckage back there. Okay? I'm about to fuck shit up. Then you came.
Yeah, that was
Noah.
God, man. He took.
You guys are all fucked. I'm flooding the world.
Oh.
Moses, I'm going to get your people out of slavery. Now? Nah. I'm gonna make 10 plagues. 10? Why not one really big one in the front? I have my plans. Then they get free. Thank God we're free. We're gonna go to the motherland. Eventually. How long's the trip? You'll find out when you get there. You know what I mean? It's like, this was a vengeful person that they were praying to. And the thing I found interesting, and it was on the Netflix documentary of the Testament of Moses.
Yeah.
He just said that I am your one and only God. He acknowledged there were other gods. He says like, but you're my children. And then the rest of the gods just fucked off after a while. But that's the thing of like, okay. So other gods, because it's going to be weird if you're just like, you know, being persecuted for being a Christian and saying, no other gods. No. There's only one God for me, my God. And I think like we talked about last time, that came out of monotheism. Actually, the earliest recorded signs of it came out of Egypt. And then after that guy died, they tried to wipe history of him. Get that shit the fuck out of here.
Well, yeah, because, I mean, their gods were pretty much copy and paste, just a different way of like Greek gods and Roman gods, which were all templates of the Babylonian gods.
Yes.
Because there were 12 of them.
Yes, Babylonian, right. Sumerian gods. It was all kind of a carbon copy. Egyptians always believed in 3 gods at one time. Like there was always just a popular.
Yeah, sun, what was it? Sun, moon, and death.
Yeah, so it was essentially like, hey, you got Papa, Mama, and Baby, and they just changed out the names, and these are our gods. And that's how their pantheon came out. But you got to figure they used the mythology to understand their world. And
if you dive deeper into it, there's a name that pops up called Gadriel, which was, I mean, and then Gadriel changes a bunch of things. And they believe that that's the Babylonian god that came through and like fucked with human DNA, and that's where you get into the conspiracy stuff of it.
It's just
I hope one day we figure all this shit out because it's just.
I don't think
such
there will
a back and forth topic.
You know, because there's only so much we can learn from the things that are left in the ground. One of the things was I think it was like what they consider early Homo sapiens in Britain. And they found, like, through bogs at that time that they were living, wooden throughways. Oh, my God, they cut things down and made a path so they can get food. Yeah. I get you guys are surprised by this, but it turns out they may not have been complete fucking morons who were just lucky at living. That's why I feel like from a lot of, like, archaeologists and stuff, they're so amazed. Like, look, they used a spoon.
That's about as ridiculous as the French thinking that Egyptians used hydraulic lifts to build the pyramids. I was reading that, and I was
might
just
as well go into that one first. Of ancient Egyptians may have used hydraulic lift to build the pyramids.
I laugh. No, like everybody knows that every society that's ever existed has come up and organized, closes off dams
At
to
least
retreat water, and
at least they're not blaming it on aliens, okay?
well, no, but
They're
there's like
getting
there's no
creative.
pictures. They're like, look at this track. It must have been something that pulls up. We're talking about hydraulics. Okay.
Now, did they
Like,
use
we all knew
water?
oil was
Yeah,
disrespect.
the Egyptians, it's well known, they took advantage of the Nile. They had recently
Yeah.
unearthed a papyrus scroll that was literally a first-hand account of building the Great Pyramid. I think Ramses, what was it, the first? No. Was it Calf? Oh, God. I forget all their names. But it was one of the Great Pyramids. They had an actual eyewitness testimony. It was some kind of mineral, and they went through in tunnels, dug it out, and then they used water, the Nile. How they weren't good sailors. And archaeologists will say that. They didn't know how to sail. They knew the Nile, though, because it flows from north to south because of the world.
Yeah.
They also knew it was round, guys. Sorry to pop that bubble for any of you. But they, from this eye testimony account, they surmised that they had channels going up to where the pyramid was, and then, yeah. Fucking hauled it over there. Like, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah,
they weren't
you
slaves.
had to feed the slaves and the horses. They had to have water. You can't make dead slaves move boulders.
Well, yeah, they did
and
have
limestone.
slaves, but for building
The
the pyramids,
only thing-
that was an honor.
The only thing that supports this, maybe, it's a big if, okay? Because oil tubes are made from steel, stainless steel, carbon steel, corrosion-resistant alloys, or what they call CRAs, or plastic. All right, so we're way past the Iron Age, but Egyptians mastered the ability to remove carbon from iron to make rust-resistant steel. So it's possible that they could have substituted plastic for some other material to make the oil go up. But then you got to look into like pumps.
Yeah.
So what's the system that they would use to deliver oil into this thing that would turn cogs and wheels to make a hydraulic lift? Okay, because at this point I'm still under the impression that most of their heavy lift systems in ancient Egypt are based on pulleys and levers.
Because they're talking about Dozier's step pyramid in this article. And the period, obviously, it was old Egypt.
Which is weird.
There was the Old Kingdom. There were like a couple of intermediate periods where they have no idea what happened because there were so many different kings. And Egypt essentially wasn't unified. They had the middle period and then the New Kingdom. So there were 3 periods. This is going back all the way to the beginning. So you're saying these people,
4700.
you're saying at 3200 BC went from hunter-gatherers to some crazy fucker saying, you know what? Make me a pyramid. What? Go to the quarry. Am I stuttering? Go to the quarry, chip out blocks. I need to die somewhere. Put it over that sacred. Put it over that well, because water is obviously sacred to him. So, okay, what are we doing here, guys?
Wait, we want it to come to a point. Put an apex on it. Put an apex.
And then I want it to break gold at the very top. I want it gold plated with a message to the gods. And the thing was, I think it was like Middle Kingdom or New Kingdom. There was like a pharaoh's brother that went around to all the pyramids and tombs, and he put their names on it on the outside. So, you know, this is his pyramid. Like one guy were like, hey, thank you. Once we got the Rosetta Stone, like, that guy, you're the MVP right here. At least we know who the fuck's in there. Because Lord knows, the biggest tomb robbers and grave robbers, they were ancient Egyptians. They looted their shits all the time. And they were the people that made the fucking tomb. They made the traps. They knew where they were.
I'll give the French researchers that boon of a highly unproven opinion. Only because the pyramids are subject to be lots of different things. Energy devices for storing energy. They've been talked about being like weather manipulators because of the way they're positioned. They've been talked about being part of a large calendar system. in ancient Egypt because of the way they're positioned astronomically. And if you look from a top-down position, it kind of looks like a microchip. So, I mean, it could have been for power. They call it a nuclear power station because of all the different chambers that delivered all these liquids, and then the mercury chambers underneath at the bottom.
Yeah, but China did that with the first
It
emperor.
was a
He had
multifaceted building. It's like
they made a map of China, and all the rivers were rivers of mercury. And you're like, oh, we can't go there. That is way too toxic. You know those fucking levels? Like, leave that fucking mountain alone.
Yeah.
So,
but it's like an Empire State Building, and like every level's got a different company. It was one building made for a multitude of different things. It was such a fascinating building that the kings that lived there were like, "Yeah, I want to fucking be buried here.
Yeah,
I'd like to see somebody rob shit here." Like being surrounded by hundreds of pounds of fucking limestone.
I'd so love to be buried here. This is such a beautiful pyramid. What, on top? No, at the bottom, man. Bottom. Yeah, I want all my stuff too. I'm taking it with me. I gotta have plenty of stuff to do in the afterlife.
They're also used for religious purposes.
He was saved. You gotta think, all those grave robbers going through, they're stealing the bodies, they're stealing your body, they're stealing your shit. So now you thought, man, I got all this stuff in the afterlife. No, you don't. All of a sudden, all these jars of wine, all these soldiers, all these boats, they just fucking disappear. All your golden jewelry, like, hey, I have a necklace around here. Now you got a fucking ghost looking for his necklace for all of eternity. That seems like hell.
This is like fucking Deadpool and Wolverine trapped in a desert.
You know what I mean? Oh my God, this sucks. Well, at least I have one. What the hell? Where did my wine go? I didn't drink that. Those fuckers stole my shit again. Damn you, Newman! But we are.
I highly doubt it works though. But that's funny to think about.
Really, yeah.
Imagine get to the river Styx and like, where's your shit? And you need to pass. Well, I have all this stuff. And, well, I brought a gold coin, I think.
We already talked
Is there
about
anything else I can do?
We talked about the ancient Babylonians, and a lunar eclipse occurred when the Earth passes, between sun and the moon. Cool. They had an ancient omen against it. It was written in cuneiform in the early second millennia. These are 4,000 years before year-old Mesopotamian warnings have finally been interpreted from 4 tablets that has been sitting in a British museum for well over a century. Translations in a new study, the researchers reveal how various features of an eclipse could be used to foresee future events. And essentially, with like a lot of ancient cultures, they took that solar and lunar. They took more specifically the lunar eclipse and the solar eclipses. They took that as a bad omen, like some king is going to die. Although, if you knew that as an assassin, you're like, hey, we got an eclipse coming up. I've been wanting to kill that king.
I mean, Trump was shot at.
Was it during an eclipse? Because that would have been. He would have been staring at the sun. Hey, what is
on the other side of the world while it's sunny over here.
That shooting was ridiculous. Like, you're not going to stop the guy with the step ladder? And the thing for targeting how far somebody is away? What? Hey, you see that guy with the step ladder? And then nobody talks to each other. Like, man, I saw him. He's probably fine. So, lunar eclipses or step ladders might be the title of the podcast.
Either or, you can't get to either of them, shooter or the eclipse.
Yeah. So royal advisors were able to decipher the intentions of the heavens and assist the king in avoiding nasty outcomes. The text analyzed by study author are believed to have originated in the ancient Babylonian city of Sippar, located in modern-day Iraq. So they had their own things. The first millennium text shows that if, after such inquiry, the king's advisors felt that the threat still present, action could be taken to annul it by identifying the force of evil that laid behind it and encountering them with atropiac rituals. Atropic? I don't know. They fucking killed people. You can put any word you want behind it, but
So what?
fix
You
it.
sacrifice it?
Hey,
Go
Greg's
to the
dead.
nearest
He was the
village,
guy.
find a virgin.
Well, I mean, sacrifice was normal back then. You know, like appease the gods, kill her.
Yeah.
They're happy now. It's raining. Thank God we didn't piss off the god of the harvest. I told you we needed that blood sacrifice.
Yeah, it was the
It's like a bunch of
not
people
the
who are
king.
into astrology
Not the Jews,
just
it was the other Jews.
got to be decision makers. Like, oh, I'm sorry, you're a Pisces. Today's not your day, King. There's a lunar eclipse. If you don't want to believe me, look, Omen.
Yeah. Most of that way of thinking's been pretty much dominantly forced out.
Because you used to have
Might be like
shamans and alchemists and, you know, different things out there. And, yeah, now you got pharma. Big pharma. It's fine, I'm sure.
Yeah, now the only thing in the woods is a bunch of drunk hobos.
Well,
Witches picking herbs.
we talked about the Babylonians. Let's keep going back because the world's oldest calendar may actually just depict a catastrophic comic impact 13,000 years ago, right around when we're talking about.
Okay, so I don't know. The thing that stuck out about me when they talk about Göbekli Tepe, I don't fucking know how you ever pronounce it.
I watched the.
So
I knew that good enough. That place is amazing.
if you get towards the end, the article basically states that Göbek, it theorizes that GT. I'm just gonna call it GT because I can't get the pronunciation.
Makes it easier.
GT was created by a group of people out of fear after witnessing this event or witnessing the fallout of the event. So and it makes the argument that fear is a great motivator, which is true because humans still thrive on fight or flight. We survive and endure a lot of things, and we can survive struggle.
Sense how our earliest text documents on those cuneiform tablets still have a flood myth. They still have a Noah, and he was contacted by the Anunnaki. Myth. Hey, make a boat this big. You know, so now with this 13,000 years ago, talking about a global event that messed everything up. They made this temple.
Well, they said the comet
buried it like a little time capsule.
The comet started the ice age that they talk about in that End of Days documentary on Netflix. The guy with the glasses and the old white hair. I can't remember his name, but he talks about it in Göbekli Tepe is in the documentary itself, and it shows like Graham, and it shows all these different signs and stuff on like pillars and shit, and a lot of it seems to be pointed out that it has a lot to do with the comet that struck, and caused the ice age.
The thing I like about that series is he points out the easy symbolism of the ancients seeing comets like that as serpents. So they talk about, even in the Mesoamericas, serpent coming from the sky, causing fire and great catastrophe, rise of waters. So all around the world, we have all these myths of a global flood, global cataclysms from comets and asteroids, shit going wrong, people going underground to build their houses because fuck these asteroids, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Where are you going to go?
Yeah.
In the ground. Okay?
Shoot the call.
You know what I mean? I'm just going to go in the ground. You guys, fuck off. There's a survivability to that.
That's the premise for the Guatemalan people in my story. So you read that story I shared with you the other day. Sorry, guys, got to be vague because it's not really released yet. But I prefaced it on that because there was, in Guatemalan history in South America, the Spanish were coming in, were just taking natives and just plucking them and selling them off as slavery, like every other part of the fucking world in history.
Exactly.
And before they got there were these warring nations of Guatemalan tribes. And I kind of used that. And on that specific type of Guatemalan tribe, who was the last king, Takan Chan Hala, I can't pronounce the last part. But I just okay, well, he meets the death god Akbal. He gives them the power of the jaguar, which is basically an ethereal power of death, which is multidimensional and spiritual. And he built a new city of New Tikal underground, subterranean. You know, kind of like Black Panther style, only without the fancy force field and technology.
Yeah.
But they use Earth-based technology, which is gravitational bioluminescence and all that, and they build a city underground. And I'm of the mind that I don't think these cities are completely gone. They can't be.
Well,
If they
there
were
was the
there
one that
before,
Graham was
some of them
talking
might be
about.
abandoned, but how many of them are still active?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you're living underground, it's almost that Fallout vault thing, you know? Like somebody's still trapped in the vault.
Yeah.
They just haven't come out yet. Like, where did you guys come from? Go back
Well, I
in
mean, the
that place.
militaries around the world have bases underground all over the place, and they talk about them all the time. You hear interviews from where everything from like kitchen staff to truck drivers who drive into these huge underground or mountainous caverns that look like highways, but they're segregated off of the main highways, and then they just like disappear into 30 miles of concrete.
Yeah.
Aside from concrete, like how much of those ancient cities are still accessible and active or being active in use today?
Because we're always
So
finding
that's
ancient
like
shit everywhere.
that conspiracy.
Especially in like Europe and over there because they just kept building on top of each other. So they're excavating like, hey, we found a Roman mosaic. Yeah, in Britain. No, wait, you were conquered by them. And let's go. You had a better life. Then you went into the Dark Ages for a long time. Like, I get it. You lost the ability for running water. Romans really understood water and hydrodynamics.
Oh yeah, they did.
You know what I mean? Like,
One
nah,
of the best
running water.
aqueduct systems built by Rome.
Bathrooms in houses. Running water in houses.
Yeah, that's a running joke that Italians really are the best plumbers. That's why the Japanese used Italians for fucking Super Mario,
They
bro.
repurposed it.
Could you imagine Eastern Mario and Luigi? I mean,
They're really good at math. They're accountants. They're not plumbers. They're working at a corporation.
Exactly.
That's why the Japanese have such a fascination for reincarnation animes right now. Look, I worked myself to death at this company, and now I get to be with magical powers in another world that looks exactly like a game. Because all these creators are gamers, and they're just like, nah, everything that you reincarnate in, you got magical powers, you're in another world, it's fine. Oh, okay. All right, this sounds great. And still,
sure
I'll keep saying it. If I die and I'm not reincarnated in one of those worlds, I'm going to be a little bit peeved, okay? A little bit peeved.
Gonna come back as a butterfly.
Fuck! No, because I'd come back as a caterpillar, and then I have to fucking waste my life just eating and bonbons in there and shoveling shit down my face, eventually become a beautiful butterfly, flapping all around.
This is why reincarnation has that rule where they don't let you remember your reincarnated lives.
Yeah.
So you don't turn into a podcaster and bitch about. Do you have any idea what it's like to be trapped in a pod before you get wings? You have no idea how hard it is to take a shit in a chrysalis. Okay.
I remember my former life as a butterfly, and then when I was a caterpillar. All right, calm down. Man. Is that why you're a sprinter right now? It's the person who's a jet fighter pilot now, and they still run like 10 miles every day. Like, I love running and I love flying. I'm like, all right, man, calm down. I'm not saying you can't do it. You just better have 20/20 vision.
Like, could you imagine the insurance on PTSD from multiple reincarnation syndrome?
I'm sorry,
Like you get reincarnated so many times, you're going through all these motions. They're not even. It's like reincarnation ADHD.
Dude, that's a fucking premise right there for like everybody. It's normally like, oh, I'm sorry, but your child's been reincarnated 10 times. Oh no!
Like, why is he growling at me? He was a dog in his former life. Just give it about 5 minutes. He'll be a monkey.
He'll grow out of it. He'll grow out of it with proper counseling. It's going to be 75 million yen a month. Yeah. Have fun with your reincarnated child. God, we've made reincarnation capitalistic. How? How do we do that? It's very easy as Americans.
That's why it's a silly podcast, man.
Oh
Also,
man. All right.
I can't get over the notion that it implies that Göbekli Tepe was built prefaced on the fact that there was one or two people who came to town and were like, "All right, everybody, be afraid. We got to build this shit because everybody needs to know. That's our purpose."
Well,
now.
that's the thing of
And people are
Göbekli
just like,
Tepe.
"Oh, that
It's
sounds like a
just
great
one
idea."
site. There's a whole bunch of others that aren't even uncovered or excavated yet. They see them in the ground. They're like, I see you over there.
Well, it even suggested that they were a skull cult.
Yes. I mean,
I was like, what?
what are you gonna do?
Why?
with the
Because
skull?
there's skulls all around? People died there, you fucking asshole.
Oh my God. Can you imagine what future alien archaeologists would think about us with Disney World? Clearly, they worship the mouse.
Yeah, they'd think we're some weird people. Why is there a door that goes into a large door that goes to a hallway full of fucking bodies? Like, like watching in the Winchester mansion where that crazy lady after her husband died built walls and then put a door there so people would just walk into a wall for no reason.
Now, this is for everybody else outside of one state in particular, but or one city in particular. Can you imagine the first city that they find when we're long gone is Los Angeles?
I was about to say, God, I hope it's not LA.
How quickly it would go to that one Doctor Who episode where David Tennant is in that like boat in the sky, and the guy's like, "Yes, they worshipped a man called Santa on this day. They went to war with the country Turkey." I'm like, not right. That's the kind of thing that we're gonna get if they dig up Los Angeles first. So maybe we need to go back to Eclispes Tepe so people understand, like, we weren't them.
Let's hope they have that magic or technology like brings a body back to life, like in D&D.
Yeah.
So someone could be like, "Yeah, that's not how it went down."
Well, what if it gets to Futurama, where you got like floating heads, and all of a sudden they just come across like the floating head gallery, and you're like, "Oh God, what did you think?" No. That's
after being alive for so long and absorbing so many conspiracy theories and seeing technology come the way it has, and and laws fundamentally protect even organs on your body as product or things that are attached to an estate. So the idea that you could have your head in a jar, I think, is a nod to the future being interested in just brains.
Yeah.
Like if you could create, okay, so governments are organizations, they're corporations. Corporations have assets. That's what we are. That's why we have birth certificates. We are assets. So what if someone enforced this corporate greed and there was no force to stop them, and they just harvested brains and built this superhuman biocomputer, and then they attached that shit to fucking AI, and then that was what they put in charge of their corporation, not a fucking president, but a superhuman biological computer built from the brains of their assets.
Well, I mean, technically, you could even just move that into AI, like an AI program, and that's not what they thought. Dave.
Well, AI by itself is proven to be really fucking stupid and not a way to go. Like Microsoft is losing billions. There's a dynamic issue with AI that they can't capture or emulate the empathy of human essence.
Yes, and there's also a study that came out that said if a product markets that it uses AI, people are less likely to buy it.
Right now, I think right now it's still in a stage of stigmata.
We're not quite there yet, but we can go on to the big AI article debate right now with Colin Kaepernick here, because this is gonna be the highlight of this fucking show. All right, because I think we both hold the same opinion that Colin Kaepernick should pick another fucking company to make, all right, and not mess with starting an AI comic book company, because that is going to first off pissed off I haven't talked to everyone. I know I said don't use always, or all, but I'm imagining the entire comic book industry is absolutely furious right now.
Yeah, what would fucking make someone who knelt on the American flag, started a huge, well, didn't start, but supported in propped up one of the biggest movements of culture in our country, and then decided just one day with all his millions from what I find is a career that doesn't add up in my favorite team. Sorry, but you'll never be a Steve Young.
He wasn't.
Or Jerry Rice, or any of the other great.
I did watch a little bit of football when I was still into football. I did watch some of the stuff he did, and he wasn't really. It's fine.
No, but I don't want to get into stats because that's not the bad. But what fucking makes you wake up one morning like, yeah, I think comics is the business I want to be in? Like, is it just because people are making millions by using AI to create videos with like voice catching and like different like even people who make music, they're using AI to create like animated still images so they can upload their music and then they loop it so it's like interactive and it's visual and all that stuff. I mean, why the fuck come into comics? Comics is such a unique and niche culture.
Yeah.
You don't kneel on the culture of comics, especially if you've got no fucking experience.
Yeah.
No experience whatsoever.
It's
I mean, has he ever written a story, period?
He's spending $4 million to start this company powered by AI, Lumi, which was announced on July 24th, which promoted that it was, quote, a groundbreaking platform that empowers creators, we'll use that word loosely, by providing them with the tools needed to independently create, publish, and merchandise their stories, both digitally and physically. Here is Matt Mann's tip of the week. Put in the work to do the creative stuff you want to do. Do not use a crutch like this. Like we mentioned, it is not done yet. It's not there. You want to invest in this? Fine. But if you're giving a tool for creators, put up some kind of a block. I get you want this tool to be available for anybody who has an idea of a comic. You can make your comic without any actual talent. That's not the point of making a comic. Hey, I made this comic. Aleem has that. You have that. I made this happen. That stuff on the wall happens.
Yeah. See that fucking note cards? Those are like moments in a story that are all mapped out. If I put that shit in ChatGPT 4.0, which I have because I like to play with AI, I ask it magical.
I do mine with sketches. Thank God it's blurred, but I do mine with sketches. I draw it out. Like, we all have our different ways of crafting out what we want to create. And this is such a slap in the face, and you put the, almost offensive title on it of saying that it's for creators. This is not for the people who are making comic books. This is for the person who is online hating, spewing the hate speech out there on these guys going out there and putting their blood, sweat, and tears into these fucking comics. And now you want to give these fucking trolls a way to say, look, I did a better comic. Oh, because you used AI and ChatGPT and this Lumi project to give you this masterpiece. Guess what? You shouldn't be able to put it into any kind of award ceremonies at all. You should be able to sell it. But you have to say that it was made with AI. Give that out.
I'm sure there'll be like a custom Lumi stamp or shit.
Gotta have.
If they're going all in, they're probably going to have an app, website, and then a publishing, because you can't do marketing. You can't claim to be doing marketing if you're not being a publisher. So you can expect them to be at present events like San Diego Comic-Con and the other Comic-Cons because they've got $4 million, so they're going to have travel expenses.
It's not going to be a nice place. You're going to get a lot of fucking like killer death stares from those other creatives walking by your table.
Well, let's play devil's advocate for a minute because I've had to think about this because you can't have an educated opinion or an educated opinion against said educated opinion without looking at both sides.
To quote Rogan, before you continue, to quote Rogan, if you're in a situation like me to where you're mad, take yourself out of your perspective and try to see it from the other side. Because if you can't do that, it's ego. Right. And I do see the benefit that it can help.
Well, I've talked to lots of artists, and one of the artists that still sticks with me was from 2022 CDCC, which happens over here in Louisiana. There's an artist named Anthony Figaro, great artist, very talented man, brings his son, helps him sell his shows. He sells art prints. He's done a bunch of books. I have a few of his books.
Awesome.
And one of the things that he was excited about when it comes to AI is if he had the ability to train an AI in his style, he could not only license his style to other people, but he could also use that AI style and his style, which is the same, maximize his commission input so that he's doing more work
on Canva
in the same amount.
If you use Magic Write, have you ever, like, I've typed in, look like anime, look like cartoon, look like, you have to get creative in your words you use for the AI to produce what you want. So there is a little bit of knowing the English language there. But here's the thing.
The quality of the keyword.
This is what anybody that uses Canva, at least, because I know that one, I don't understand what you're doing. What you want? I don't know that word. Type in, look like Disney anything. Disney character, this property character. It won't do it.
Yeah.
It will create, like, if I type in trolls, right? It gives me something that kind of looks like that newer Trolls movie, maybe something like out of Monsters, Inc. Nothing like a bridge troll. But if you type in ogre, you get kind of like a bridge troll looking thing. So that's where we say it's not quite there yet. However, if you would like go out there, make it look like a Disney princess, that AI will look at you fucking sideways, because even that AI doesn't want to get sued by Disney.
It's like, I think it has a lot to do. So now you're crossing the boundaries of like ethics versus production, but in quality. I don't think you want to plug an AI into a larger Intel Core processor. Or anything that's going to maximize its own intelligence, because
quantum computer, keep it the fuck out of there.
Well, quantum computing is still being trying to be understood, and so there's a dimensional aspect to human consciousness that you can't quite quantify scientifically. And even if you could, I don't think anybody ever is going to get so close as to be able to describe down to the minute detail.
Do you think that comes down to the soul of a person? Because even like my dog has his own personality. Like, does it come down to the soul?
I mean, in essence, we all come from a one source, but we're all different because we've all been split from that source to experience life differently. And our experiences also alter our personality. And I think it's life's way of looking back on itself and making sure that it experiences all there is to experience ever. If you want to look at it that way. So that's why the theory exists that when they say look inside yourself, it's a phrase that God often speaks to his chosen people in. It's because we all have like a piece of God in us, right? The answer is in you, to quote Mufasa.
Exactly.
You, like, it's the answer is in you, because not only was Simba a part of Mufasa because they share the same blood, they also share the same source, which was, if you're speaking spiritually or religiously, it's God. Even if you just believe in God, it's like even the pantheon of gods had one God who was at the head of the table.
Yeah, Jupiter, Zeus.
Jupiter. Like, they all had one prime, right?
The Optimus Prime.
I mean, that's right, Matt. That's right.
Roll out.
Roll out. Bumblebee, no.
God, Beast Wars had such an uneventful tagline. Maximize! Get out of here.
Fucking love Beast Wars, man.
Oh, that was shit. I rewatched
it confused the shit out of me, the last movie that came out with. There was like two different ones. I was like, okay, so Optimus isn't the same as Maximal Prime. I get it.
Yeah, but the series itself was revolutionary because of the CGI. If you look back on it now, terrible. 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 It looks like pre-alpha. That's what it looks like. Like when you go back and rewatch Beast Wars. I have recently. It's pre-alpha.
It looks like what AI, the quality of AI is today. It's like, it made a thing, but it's hold up.
Well, it's just like the pictures that I take, and I
AI
have
is
fun with
just
the
a tool.
AI. It's here. Look, I took a picture here, but now I'm having fun with AI. My favorite one was the Nifty 50s one, and I just had like a whole bunch of characters waiting in line out in front of it. It was like anime, dragons, lions. I'm like, what else can we put in here? Under the 420 bridge, I'm like, hey, what about a dragon, a spaceship, an alien? Let's go for broke at an elephant. You know, there is fun you can do with that to promote yourself. And I'm not against AI in any aspect, but I think, like many things, it's a tool. You know, a lightsaber needs to be wielded properly. Otherwise, you're going to cut off everyone's arms and limbs, including your own, Anakin. So you got to be a little bit, what do we want to do with this? We want to use it as a tool. All right, Colin, if we're taking this from the other perspective. All right, well, we want to put some safeguards in place. You can't say, make something, this comic of Diary of Sweet Pea, but make it in the style of Mark McKenna. I know for a fact Mark wouldn't like that. Frank wouldn't like that. No comic book artist would like that. Like, oh, you're just going to copy my style with AI? No. But, like I said, having that legal line of saying, no, you can't have your AI programmed to have this in here. Now, think of other creative sources. Think of other ways that we could use this to safeguard creatives, as well as being able to use it in AI for a logistical tool. I use ChatGPT. I use Canva AI. I use AI, but I use it as a tool. Hey, I can't really work this out. Oh my God, that's what I was thinking. Or I like this line, I like that line. I'm going to do something else here. Use it as a tool to help yourself, to help
There's
move
like
you forward.
1.34 million
separate.
words in a dictionary. Okay, so when you're writing and you're looking for that one good action verb or that one good adjective or preposition, or you're trying to run around a preposition, so you got to restructure your sentence. I use AI and I'll take a sentence, I'll pop it in there and be like, I'll ask it to rewrite this sentence, either to implement or change words, or just to look at various different types of like sentence structures for that sentence.
Yes, that's.
And then I'll take a few pieces, and then I'll make my own sentence after that.
Yes.
I use AI to help me a lot all the time. We've all been using AI for a long time. Okay, text generated.
How you describe that?
Phones. That's a form of AI.
How you describe that, though, that is a lot like being in a writer's room.
Yeah.
And you're in a writer's room without the other writers. Like, hey, how can I say this? Well, I don't really like that. Well, you know what? I really like this, though.
Correct.
Now I got an idea off of this. Now you're using it to be creative for yourself. So that's why I'm saying we do have a tool out of this. It's not like put it in the shed, lock it, bury it, throw it in the bottom of the Marianas Trench. That's not what I'm saying. Because you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. But we can repurpose that toothpaste to help us move forward smart.
What the real conversation about AI is, though? It's not really, is it ethical? Is it moral? Is it good enough, or is it not good enough? It's really about fear of earning and not earning. That's what it's really about.
Yes.
Independent anybody thinks that AI is going to replace them as content creators, as artists, as graphic designers.
You look at truck drivers, factory workers, they're all worried about robots.
Yeah. I mean, it could, but Amazon's robot really killed itself after 15 minutes of work, so I don't think they got anything to work about.
You got time.
So I don't think it's got anything to worry about. Now, I do think that this means we should pay those workers hazard pay and give them some therapy. That's kind of discerning. But
again,
discern from that what you will.
Counteract
the fact
this new
is,
technology.
AI comes down to who's gonna make the most money, who's gonna have a job at the end of the day, and who's not. And that's a fear prefaced on a larger conversation, which all has to go back to government and economy. And you really have to understand that once you understand that, get past your own opinion, stop being mad about it, don't look at the moral or ethics side of it. There's a revolution of free market coming that's gonna, I believe, is going to upend the Library of Congress approval, and we're gonna see less and less of regulation when it comes to publish. So right now, the way you do it is you publish an IP, you do that with the Library of Congress, you get your little thing, your number, and then it's yours, and then that's copyright. Okay, well, as a species of human who think that the world is inevitable. Ideas are not.
Yes.
Okay, so we're listening to music with same beats that are different and varied and chopped up. We're listening and we're watching movies that are predeterminedly used. I'm not saying that correctly. Are premised based on old formulas and old styles.
Yes.
Okay, they're new movies, new characters,
Like
new
people's
products.
problem with the weather and it being based off of 1950s weather balloons.
Right. Well, I mean, it's automobiles. They've been using
Yeah.
some of the same body styles. Like, you should know this. If you look at a Ford Fusion and you look at a Ford Taurus, there's really not much of a difference other than the body is leaner. And then you look at a Chevy Cobalt.
Yeah.
Look at a Chevy Cobalt, then look at a Ford Fusion. They're like, oh, they took it, they modified the design, but it's still pretty much the same.
Look at a Chrysler Town and Country, and look at a Volkswagen Routog. Same car, different badges. Guess which one costs more? The German one. It's literally they bought it from Chrysler.
And that's the thing, though. Like in a republic democracy that we live in the U.S., we're supposed to have an open free market. But if you start looking at the paperwork and you look at the legality of it, if you look at the news and you go back and some of the stories that are covered when it comes to copyright infringement, we are not an open market country who approves of people just coming out of nowhere and disrupting the market with their great idea. That's why we have the regulation of copyright.
You know what? To quote a new lawyer friend of mine, government's broken. He said it several times, and I'm like, I believe you. You don't have to convince me. I know. Yeah. All right. We going to do anything about it? Or are we all just going to look at this broken clock and like, hey, it's right twice a day. What do you want? You want to know what time it is? Ah. You corporate zombie. You work for the clock company. Oh, what?
They might get royalties. We get royalties at noon. We created the 12.
Oh, who was it that said time is a construct made by the clock companies?
To the one.
Oh.
But for reals, though, I think the revolution of AI is going to bring about the end of copyright and it's going to open up the free market. And if you're mad about AI interrupting your business, well, maybe this is a time where AI comes in and actually helps you become a better business because of it. You think about all the independent publishers out there just in the comics industry as a focus who have problems reaching market because of marketing companies have cornered parts of social media space. Mm-hmm. And the algorithms help control that because it's all about exposure and they have the max amount of exposure because they pay the most.
No, that was Karl Marx. Maybe not the perfect person to quote there, but yeah, that was Karl Marx that said that.
Jesus, man.
Once again, look up who the fuck you're quoting. That's another important Matt tip for today, because Marxism, much to the chagrin of people in academia, Marxism isn't really that good. Like at all. Or communism either, unless you're in a small group, but, or not.
I mean, in retrospect, in another dimension, if communism was regulated, I mean, it could have been good in some aspects. Not all of communism was horrible, right? The idea of communism in some form was people getting together in neighborhoods and creating gardens that they can all pull from if they all pitched in. That's not a bad idea.
Yeah, but then you look at there's free book libraries, there's like free DVD libraries that some small towns will have pop up around there. And it's usually always empty. You know what I mean? Like, oh, take one, replace one. Well, that works for the nice people.
That starts this endless cycle of like being a good person.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it takes a village to make a village stay a village, right?
Yeah.
Like if everybody came in with just a dash of shame and a little bit of meanness, but they are also nice, and people understood this. Like,
so from the Northeast,
modern age, people are like, you should always be nice.
So,
like, yeah, but
so they have to be from the Northeast, where we have serious winter, but we still have nice weather. Yeah, we're nice some of the year. Other times, get the fuck out of my way. We are nice people. City of brotherly love. Get the fuck out. We're nice. We're telling you what we want up front. That's nice.
Well, yeah, the library gets emptied and like there's one person that's like, where the fuck all these books go? And then they start looking at everybody's house and then they create a little posse and then they get together and they use,
Human beings are just
Group
always the
bias.
same.
They form a regulation, they make rules, and that's how government started.
Yeah. I mean, you need somebody to rule over the others, you know? I mean, it's not it speaks back to even like what we've been saying this whole show it speaks back to just human beings from the beginning. We've acted the same. You know, you look at even Egypt. That guy said, that former king said something, Pharaoh said something I don't like. Let's just erase that. And then there was some other guy in a part of the country you didn't, you know, thoroughly clean, and that's where they find that information about the guy. And now we have a wider spectrum of your history. You know, there's that kind of level, yet people are always petty. Like I've said in past podcasts, Egypt never lost a battle. They just had successful wins closer and closer to home. And these are the people that you're like, no, they wrote it in stone. God, I hope they don't say that in the future.
True.
Look, they wrote it down.
Because
Clearly, they worship this man named Luke Skywalker. He was a force to be reckoned with. He was a wizard. He had a laser sword. Light doesn't stop. How'd they make that happen? That's how advanced they were. Apparently, it happened a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. So we have some ways to go, guys. We got to find that galaxy now. Dig up that place.
Sometimes I get pissed with the whole AI thing, and I just want to tell everybody to shut the fuck up and just focus on you. Like, don't worry about if an AI could copy your style. You're putting your shit out there on the internet. It's out there forever anyway.
Yeah.
Like when you're dead and gone, your style's not going to matter. When I'm dead and gone, none of my stories are going to be mine. They're going to be dead.
That's where this next story kind of like kicks you in the ass there, maybe in the future. An extinct woolly rhino with soft tissue intact has been unearthed. And guess where? Somewhere cold. That's right, Siberia. So some rich fucker is going to make this mystery, pre-Neolithic?
Neolithic?
Yeah, pre-Neolithic zoo of like animals. So you're going to have woolly mammoth, woolly rhino. Give this fucker some time. He'll probably find a saber-toothed tiger. We're going to have Jurassic Park all over again. But what if it goes better because we have AI? Then you'd have AI like, no, Newman, you're not allowed to do that. Get the fuck out of here. Maybe that's not. Maybe AI saves Jurassic Park from happening.
Well, what AI is really good at scientifically is able to see smaller, right? Because they're putting AI in surgical machines that can already do small procedures by themselves.
Yeah.
And have had a really good success percentage, to be completely honest.
Well, it's like what scientists are using the quantum computers for. They're using those for like all these complex calculations we can't even fathom. And like, figure this out. It's like, there you go. Oh my God.
Which is what computational like AI should be doing, and that's basically what we using AI for decades now, is for computation. Actually, since the 1950s, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
We've been using AI in computers. I mean, computers were basically the foundation of what AI would become now.
Yeah. Well, if you listen to Dr. Stephen Greer, we perfected the gravity engine back in the 50s, so we're fucking cruising.
Oh.
All right?
Yeah.
Secret tunnels with trains to get the fuck out of there. Like, nah, that was a double. No, he hopped in the fucking speed train and went away. Now he's in that plane in the sky. Where is he? We don't know. Is Biden dead? What?
Dr. Greer believes that that's what the Germans were doing. And that's why the U.S. really got involved in the war, was to sack that technology.
Well, the fucking thing is, even Tesla had like something that looked like a UFO sketched out. He was trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Well, his designs came from the earlier studies of Nostradamus that, oh my God, what is that Italian Renaissance inventor?
Leonardo da Vinci?
Da Vinci, yeah. Da Vinci had plans based on that, and he took Da Vinci's plans and just added modern day science to it and figured out a way to create the same effect that of the sightings that we're seeing, like going up and down and side to side, things that aerodynamically aren't possible with planes without like turbine engines that turn. If you look at the you look at those modern day helos
Mm-hmm.
where the turbines turn to land and they can come up.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They turn around.
Harrier jets that go up and.
Yeah.
It was in that
But you don't need all that if you had gravitational technology like the ones that people witness in UFOs.
Yeah,
where,
no,
like,
you can
at
go
the
from
blink
like
of an eye,
6,000 feet to
immediate
60 in a
propulsion.
matter of a second. You know, like you're getting
Yeah.
unattainable speeds, which is also kind of because they don't know how it all also works. They're also like maybe the probes. Now maybe ours are probes. You know, we're like that body is going to be mush.
I really don't think it's aliens, man. I really think it's us. I really think it's us and UFOs.
More likely than not, because why would they? If they could go, how are we so interesting? Unless you're like hall monitors, like, hey, stop running. No blowing up your neighbor with a nuclear bomb. Stop that shit.
Well, it goes back to that theory. Like, if you wanted to, like, if you were gonna observe a species, like, what would you do? And we already do that now, especially in marine biology. We create animatronic like fishes with cameras, and we chill them in the water, and then we observe
look at the
what we want to
indigenous
observe.
tribes we study. If you send a person to the island, they die. How are we gonna do it? From a fucking helicopter, bud. From a fucking plane. We're gonna get a drone. We're gonna find a way to make that shit happen. We're not going on a fucking. We're not going there. They're gonna kill us. We're gonna watch them, see what they're doing. Hey, looks like them. Yeah.
Gonna send a SOCOM Navy SEAL out there, cover himself in mud and hide in trees and shit with cameras.
But that also speaks to the ancient side of it, right? Because there are multiple levels of technology in our world today, to where you do have those hunter-gatherer tribes today. Right now, he's out there probably fucking sleeping, depending on what side of the world. You know, lights go out, we sleep. Especially
It makes you wonder when, like, what's next? When's the end? Like, if it's ever gonna end? You think infinitesimally? Like, okay, so now we're at the age of like quantum computing. What's next? I mean,
if we don't continue to evolve our technology to get to a Type 1 civilization, we're going to be wiped out by an asteroid. Because that was the other story that I saw outside of the woolly mammoth story, was the extinction of the dinosaurs.
Right.
The asteroid came from Jupiter, or outside of Jupiter, rather.
Yeah.
So they know, oh, yeah, it's kind of outside of there. So they know, like, oh, yeah, they thought it was a comet. Oh, this is weird. So planet ending. They were dinosaurs having a great fucking day. And I thought of this when I was sitting in the when I was in the shower today. I wasn't sitting. I was standing like a normal person. So I'm in the shower and I'm thinking, like, who would you rather be? I'd rather be that dinosaur who's at, like, ground zero, like, motherfucker. And that's my last thought. Because you don't want to be the one that starves. That is a long, painful fucking existence. What are you doing? Oh, well, there's no food. I got to keep... I would have much rather been wiped out by the comet if I was a dinosaur back then. All right? I hope I wasn't one of those poor bastards that starved. Jesus. That must have sucked.
I mean, if you watch the movie Dinosaur, it sucked for a lot of people. Or a lot of dinosaurs, my bad.
That's fair enough. Not just one.
But I mean, dinosaurs, did they really die though? Like at these asteroid things? I don't think a lot of them did die.
Obviously, species continue to live on. Like, it wasn't all of them that died out. But you look at, like, even what we were talking about with the Younger Dryas, we used to have horses, short-nosed bears. We used to have, like, giant sloths. All this stuff at the end of, the last glacial maximum. We had all these things. We had horses. We had tigers. We had a whole bunch of stuff over here in North America. But you didn't, it's everywhere else because they didn't get fucking hit like we did. And it's gone. And it's just like we were saying earlier, like 200,000 years. Humans have been around, And it's just, it's so surprising.
I think it's been longer than that. I just don't think there's quite enough proof out there and enough people who believe it. Because even South American civilizations, like the Incans and the Mayans, they calligraphied dinosaurs. They're this little reptiles with long, wiggly heads, right? And even in Egyptology, on some of the vases, and even in some of the hieroglyphs that they have dinosaur depictions. China and Japan have those. I don't remember the name of them, but they were like
would make
raptor-like
sense.
birds with feathers, but they were reptiles.
Well, it would make sense to where that's where the mythos of dragons came from. Is some kind of
Right.
larger serpent that was still around. You know, maybe a pterodactyl
Yeah.
evolved to look more like that classical winged wyvern, and that's where these myths came from, because there were things that were still out there, maybe few and far between, but still there.
Oh, they were very much still there, especially here in America when we were doing the settling and cutting down all the giant ancient trees
You look at
that
the
look like
giant
mountains
octopus.
now.
That was like depicted
Huh?
on so many maps. Those giant octopus that came
Yeah,
out. Did
and they
they
turned out to be
imagine
real.
there were 5 fucking tentacles that were coming out of the water, like at one point, that were taller than the mast of the ship? Were they
See, when
being
they
a drama
discovered
queen? Is my question.
when they discovered the giant squid, and that was a thing, I was like, then it's got to be real. Think about it like this, though. There's more people in the ocean now than there was back then. So when you don't have someone out there interrupting food sources, guess what gets bigger? Predators.
Exactly.
So maybe there was really a giant fucking squid the size of a damn frigate just chilling out in the water, and then just all of a sudden 80-foot tentacle just come out the water and be like, hey, bro, you in my space.
Because just for those
I'm
people,
here in the light. I
just for
can
those
move.
people who are focusing on car emissions, guess what
Yeah.
totally populates to most of our global emissions? Ocean traffic. We have more boats in the ocean than ever we have ever recorded.
Oh, yeah.
Where do you think
Yeah,
that fucker would go? He'd go deep down where he could still swim without fucking almost hitting a propeller and losing an arm and having to regrow that shit, because that's a bitch. You're already so long. It'd be like Deadpool. You'd have like a little appendage coming out of the big arm. It looks so weird.
Yeah.
And then he'd be shunned
Which
by all
might
his
explain-
friends. They'd throw things at him. Ah, poor guy.
See, and this is how nature works. So, the countries of the world unify and create the UN, okay, which increases global trade. This maximizes the amount of ocean traffic, which creates migration patterns within the species that exist in the ocean, including predators. You move a predator into a deeper body of water, what happens to all of its potential food source? It either rises or it goes to different places, right? So you're seeing shit like Loch Ness Monster and fucking mermaids, and like even people are like, oh, there's a Meg out there. Like if you moved a giant squid into the cave next door underneath the water to Meg, I mean Meg would be like, oh, okay, fucking squid's moved in. We gotta find somewhere else to live now, or we ate it, right?
There's
Like,
options, yeah.
so it's
Kill
it's
or
chilling around oil rigs and it's finding a new home.
Mm.
I mean, that's how that shit works. And people don't believe it because we've killed off a lot of the food sources. So these things might be smaller now, but they potentially could exist. I mean, the T-Rex might have had small arms because it could have had wings, and the arms were really just there were bones. They were the only bones because everything else was cartilage, and that shit just goes away.
The dodo apparently was vicious and fast. That means they must have tasted delicious if we made them to extinction. You got to think. That thing must have tasted like fucking honey, all right? Because you're like, even buffalo, we're like, they were easy to kill. This thing was fast and vicious. That means I really want to eat you.
I got a book called The Empire of Sun and Moon. And I bought it because I'm writing a horror western right now for a company called Eclispes. And inside the book, it historically documents the 1800s during the time where we built the railroad, but when America was facing probably its worst threat since the Revolution, which was Comanche Indians.
Yeah.
And they were savage Indians. They were more savage than Vikings.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and they were threatening Western expansion on a huge fucking scale.
The Comanche were vicious.
Huge.
Well,
Oh,
especially like the scalping, and they would just.
absolutely-
You did not want to be captured, but well, you didn't. You got killed.
you slowly too. They sunk you
Yeah,
in
it wasn't
pits and they
fast.
filled you with heroes. Oh
It wasn't
man,
like,
it was.
Phew, it was.
It's a graphic.
This is gonna suck. If I'm being honest with you, your life is gonna really suck from now on. Come on.
Oh yeah, you would eat your own blade,
Mm-hmm.
or bash your own face in. That's what you would have to do.
Mm.
That's what you would have to do.
Savageness.
I lost my train of thought.
But no, the savageness of Empire, blood of the Empire Moon. Was that what it's called?
The Empire of Sun and Moon.
Empire of Sun and Moon.
The
Yeah,
book's
I heard Rogan
It's a
talk
facet.
about that. Especially, he loves talking about the Comanche. He's out there in Texas, though. So, there's a bunch of shit out there. So, especially when you look at that. I mean, a lot of people like to think that, Africans and South Americans, they were just like savage races. They had impressive setups, like lavish fucking, even India was the most wealthy nation in the world before the British invaded. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
you look at it like, look at those people. Did you see what they were? Like, they're a powerhouse until somebody came in, like they always do, and said, "This is mine now." Because once again, it comes back.
Well, yeah,
to humans.
I think you have to thank the British for the dodo extinction.
Mhm.
I believe.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was them.
Yeah, if I had a time machine, I'd probably go back in time and ask them how good they taste. Did it taste like chicken?
Find a restaurant that has it on the menu, like a really good cook. Like, dude, you've never
Oh, man,
tasted.
you know
dodo.
what, bro? I read a story years ago while we're on the topic. Dodo birds not extinct.
Oh, that'd be awesome. I really wonder what they taste like. I've been hearing about the dodo my entire life. Like, what does it taste like? Is it chicken? Maybe it tastes
Okay,
like
never
pork.
mind. So it was actually okay. So there are some theories that say that it's in Mauritius, but there was a bio company in 2022 called Colossal Biosciences that it was a US based biotechnology science a genetic engineering company that sequenced the dodo's genome so they could potentially bring it back to life.
Just like the woolly rhino, the woolly mammoth. My brother also had an idea. If they bring those back, what about textiles? This is made of actual woolly mammoth. And the inside, if you'll notice, because it's so soft, it's actually woolly rhino.
No one
best
could
jacket
fucking
ever.
afford that, dude.
Oh,
No one would be able to afford that. How do you
Super
put a
rich.
price tag on 40,000-year-old rhino wool?
$1 billion. That's how you do it, bud. $1 billion. Because they're spending millions to make that fucking thing come back to life. So that's that. You know how in the automotive world, there's like the 10-year trickle down technology. Like the newest thing that you see now in 10 years will be readily available in a car. I gotta say, that's at least like a century trickle down method right there before we get like woolly mammoth pillows at Walmart. You know what I mean? Actual woolly mammoth hair. Like, oh, this is so soft.
Ancestors of Comanches and Indians on reservations be like, ha, they're so excited. My ancestors were doing that shit 1,000 years ago.
You get into that genetic manipulation as well as like cloning. Oh man,
Yeah.
that's like a whole Westworld theme park without robots. That's fine. We'll just grow another one. Kill them or don't. Somebody else will.
Well, look at the ego on that though. Like you're trying that ego on. Like, yeah, we'll just grow another one. Like the quality of people valuing life would go down extremely.
Oh my god.
If you had access to that. But like you couldn't even hire empathetic like park trainers who take care of animals because if one would died or got sick, they'd be like, "Well, he got sick, boss. I think we should just let him die and grow another one."
The coolest cloning idea I think came out of The Expanse, and it was like, hey, you can send your consciousness to this like essentially like a 3D printer. It'll 3D print your body over there. Walk around, have your experience. Load back in, your consciousness gets back uploaded into your brain, and you just had a whole trip outside of your physical body.
That's why they call it tripping balls, children. That's why they call it tripping balls.
That's the technology. Like, what's it like on Europa? let's go check it out. They got a theme park now and a Denny's. They came back. Denny's isn't dead anymore. They went to Europa. R.I.P. Denny's. Last one.
Yeah.
Went down.
Yeah, the last one closed in L.A., I think.
Oh, yeah, man. I was like, oh, man, Denny's.
Oh, man, not in L.A. No way. There's so many
like that was the last one.
places to eat now.
Yeah, it's now Lenny's. They've just rebranded.
That'll be an adventure of Rick and Morty's mind blowers. The last Denny's in L.A.
Yeah. Give them time, man. Give them time. It's just crazy.
I went there for a fucking grand slam, and they got robbed, and I got punched in the face, and someone stole my wallet.
Damn, I didn't know that place was in Delco. Chester, most specifically. But there's no Denny's anymore over here, so it's fine. Probably safe. But that's where we're going, man. If we could be able to download our consciousness to even a separate side of the world, right? Like there's this, I think travel companies would invest heavily into that if they were smart, because then you could just sell this package like, hey, keep an IV drip in your body so that way, no matter how long, you're still getting nutrients and shit. And
look at you, so excited about this idea. People are already doing this in VR space, man.
Well, yeah, but this is a way to actually get, I can touch the sand. I can feel the sand. I don't have the physical travel time going all the way around the world.
The foundation of the business side of it that you're talking about is being done in VR right now.
Yeah.
I mean, to conduct business in the U.S., people are subverting actual laws, and they're using VR business spaces. Like they go to work in other countries by putting on VR headsets and working in the U.S.
Wow.
And then there's people that set up these large servers, and they're selling houses, and they're making money on digital assets. And
these fucking shut-ins are really taking it to a new level. They got to 2020, and they were like, my time is now!
But like by the time the
Leave your
technology
house.
exists,
Go visit the sun right outside that door. It's nice. It's like that old Thompson Corbett. You don't have to leave your house for anything anymore. Not one fucking thing.
yeah.
Maybe peek your head out the door to grab the shit you have delivered. That's it.
Yeah, there is a turmoil coming in which everybody's going to have to make a decision on what kind of person they want to be and how they want to live their life. Because the way that you and I were raised is it's going away. Not really going away the aspect that it's disappearing and nobody wants to do it anymore. But
where's Matt? Nah, streetlights aren't on yet.
Come
We're
up
fine.
with technology and screens and
we were that last generation of be home by the time the streetlights come on.
Yeah.
Go out, you drink hose water, you go out into dangerous neighborhoods and do things that probably should have fucking killed you. It wasn't a Tide Pod challenge. We didn't have challenges. It was, eat this, pussy. Ha, you're gay. There was so much more brutal fucking talk back then because there was none of this. And it was just, die or don't.
Bully.
The light version. 90s. Roll for inspiration.
Everybody would be a criminal in the 90s in a court today. Parents would be arrested.
Nobody would have kids anymore. The kids would all be in like a fucking corporate foster home. The parents working off their debt. Like, hey, we feed your children. Get to work, fucker. I'm not trying to create a dystopian future, but if I was a dictator.
Yeah,
not saying
it's going in that direction. And it's, the sad part is it's totally not being hit with regulations by politicians because, one, they don't understand the science. They don't understand the impact. And two, they're so distracted by all these other world issues that they would have to split from the UN to even focus on shit that's happening right outside their door.
Yeah, well, that lack of information is also a lesson we need to take from if we're looking back, because my father always told me it's good if you can learn from your own mistakes. It's better if you can learn from others. So if we take this even in a loose sense, look at what happened to the ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs. How did we not know what the fuck they said? Well, that's because only a specific class, the priest class, could actually read it. Guess what happened when they got murdery? All those people died. Nobody could fucking read it until Napoleon came around because they had because the Greeks came in. Of course they did. The Greeks came in, fucked shit up. So there was a Greco-Egyptian text and Greek text. So that's how we know it, from the Rosetta Stone what happened. Well, how did that happen? Because of people fucking and then feeling like they have entitlement and then going on from there. So what's happening now is almost reminiscent to that. To tie it back in, is that if you don't have informed knowledge and you just react off of ego and instinct and reaction, that's not going to move the pedal forward. You know, it's not going to move the puck forward. Rather, it's going to. There's
a lot of popular world
and then you have
leaders
idiocracy to where nobody understands the fucking technology or how to do things. You know, you have to keep educating.
Well, and that's what technology is being used for, as far as like subverting social classes. It's causing people to be more reactive than they are proactively thinking. And so an exercise in success is to imagine yourself in a situation in the future that you would like to be recognized for when you're thinking about your goals. Mm-hmm. So like actors always visualize themselves as walking across the stage and receiving an Emmy for whatever award that they were in. And if you visualize that on that delusion for so long, that you actually motivate yourself to become a better actor. And so no matter what movie, film, or project you're a part of, you're always giving yourself 100%.
Yeah.
People can't give themselves 100% mentally because they're too busy being emotionally reactive to the things happening around them, mm-hmm. which is a huge issue of stigmata in our own social conflicts here in the U.S. I can't speak for the rest of the world, but people are just being too emotionally reactive. If it makes them feel a certain way, they react to it.
Well, that comes back to the tribalism
practices
that is happening now with internet culture. When you look at internet culture, and we have these tribes, these groups, like, no, this is my group. Fuck NBC. I'm the ABC group. I'm the Fox group. Fuck you both. You have this tribalism that happens just from getting, getting that good dopamine rush and adrenaline of, oh, somebody liked my stuff. Oh, they commented. Oh my God, they think just like me. We are so best friends now. And everybody has that, oh, this is the way we got to go. Right here. This is the way. But not a lot of people are actually going outside of the rut. What I feel people strive to make a rut and a routine in your normal day-to-day. If your normal day-to-day is interrupted, your normal routine is interrupted, guess what that day just turned into? A bad day. Yeah. And now it keeps going. Oh, my God, somebody interrupted my yoga by texting me. Why'd you look?
Very true.
My phone goes off all the time. I don't look.
That's why you should wake up early in the morning and do that shit.
You know what I mean? It's that kind of thing.
I could get really mean and hardcore about stuff like that, but that wouldn't do anything to anybody listening.
Well, exactly. But it's that fact of you need that hard hit of what are you doing?
Yeah, so you need that. You'll probably know what I'm talking about because I forgot his name, but I used to watch him all the time on Reels. You need that big military black guy coming in there while you order McDonald's and smacking that shit out of your hand and calling, "What you doing, fat ass? This is not what you're supposed to be doing." You need that fucker on your shoulder from time to time.
Because of how much everybody internalizes their stressors and all this minor things. One of the best things when I'm feeling angry and I want to calm myself down, it's so formulaic now, but man, what a bad day. And I think, was it a bad day? Nah, I mean, that sucked. I was overall generally happy before that. Yeah. And now that I'm thinking about it, I kind of feel like a silly asshole for getting mad at that.
Yeah.
Huh. And now you have an introspective thought on your own thought processes. So now we're already giving you more options in your thought process.
Yeah, you got to build that skill. That's hard to do, and it takes time.
It's like going through an RPG, and you're like, oh, well, no, that's the answer, but it's locked because you don't have a high enough level. Raise your level.
Yeah.
It's just like imagine you're a wizard, all right? And everything RPG, you know what a wizard has to do? Fucking study.
Yeah. What a horrible, isolated thing to have to do.
You know what I mean? Oh my God, he's magic. He's a wizard. What's he doing? Studying. Why do you think we're drinking in a pub? We're waiting for this fucker to finish learning his spell.
That's the Harry Potter series that would have failed.
Oh my God!
Fucking 30 kids in a classroom just reading a book. Or 8 books.
It's almost the end of the semester. Like, oh my God, are you writing more? This is so boring. And then Harry flipped to page 3,456 when he learned the real secret. Then book 8, it's like fucking page 5 million. You're like, all right, Harry, how much are you going to read before you do something, bro? Am I watching fucking House of Dragons right now? Am I watching Halo? How are you making this shit boring? That's almost another project. Like, how can we make wizards boring? Make them study all the time.
I know how you can make Rick and Morty boring. You turn it into an anime.
You saw that too, huh?
Yeah, I'm very unimpressed.
I was, and they were like, "New episodes Friday," and I was like, "You're good." I didn't ask for that.
I don't even know what's going on.
You know me, as well as our listeners. You all know I'm an anime fan. I got excited for the Batman anime. I got excited when they did a Deadpool manga. Nothing about this excites me. I'm a Rick and Morty fan, too. I love Rick and Morty. Why'd you need to do that? Who told you you needed to do that?
Yeah, like, I get it. It's part of a larger story, but, oh, jeez.
Ah, jeez.
That's what I felt after I watched it.
Get your shit together. Get it online. Yeah. Get your shit together.
Yeah, and I kind of have an issue with the art style. It kind of drops the quality a little bit, even for an anime.
Even for anime, yeah. Because that's normal Rick and Morty, but when you try to translate that into anime, like, anime is very expressionistic art style, somewhat. Some of them. Like, especially when it's just a scene, it goes to a different art style. You're like, oh, what are you telling here? It sets a mood. It does something for the story. Huh. That does nothing.
That animation was like all flat color driven.
I might try to give it a watch, but I'm not sure. I'm really not sure. I don't know.
Oh, you haven't watched it yet?
No. I saw an ad and I was like, oh God. I saw that it was the trailer. I watched the trailer and I was like,
yeah, I didn't even know that was happening. I've been out of the news
really
for so long.
Starved for material to watch if I'm going through Rick and Morty the anime.
I was confused.
I gotta tell you, unless that thing wins an
I'm more impressed with Kite Man than Rick and Morty.
Dude, I fucking love Kite Man. Kite Man, hell yeah. Oh my fucking God. I was like, you're really doing a series on Kite Man?
It's the best show on HBO.
Oh my God. I fucking love that show. And I never would have thought I would enjoy a show about Kite Man, but it's so clever. It's so clever. Yeah. It's so funny. It's so raunchy and wrong, but it's chef's kiss right along the satirical lines that you want for those characters. That animation has done very well. I watched a good bit of Poison Ivy Harley Quinn show. And then I saw Kite Man. I was like, Kite Man. And I am so glad I clicked on that. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. That's one of the best gems this year. It's so good.
It's like DC's Guardians of the Galaxy, just with one person, not a whole team.
I didn't even. And I never knew about that character, Golden Glider, and how that would accentuate Kite Man so well in that series, to where you have this OP girlfriend and this guy.
Yeah.
Who's just really fucking nice. I can't wait for the next episode because I think it's their season.
He's nice in the sense that he's too stupid to understand that who he's helping is bad.
Yeah. These are my friends at my favorite bar. Let me and my girlfriend. And you're like, oh man, this is so it's so great. Especially the bathroom that sends you back in time.
Oh yeah.
Fucking kidding me.
That's amazing.
So great. So fucking great.
I was like, someone jammed Back to the Future in a toilet without the cast the hot tub time machine.
But the best part
sort of the same
is how you get back to the future. You pee.
Yeah.
You go back to the past by taking a shit, and you go Back to the Future from taking a piss. Like,
it's so simple. Dodo could do it.
it's so simple and stupid. It's a stupid premise, but you're like, yes, that fits. That works so well right there. It's like giving your friend a stupid nickname, and you're like, nah, he's Fuzzy Balls. Clearly. Why is he Fuzzy Balls? He fucking picked up some food off the ground and put it in his mouth and ate it. They're all fuzzy with carpet. We call him Fuzzy Balls now. Now that man's Fuzzy Balls for the rest of his fucking life. Heaven forbid you shit yourself in a funny situation in public. Guess what you're going to be called? Shitty. People are fucking vicious, okay?
I was talking to someone about movies the other day, and we were talking about how most of everything is kind of either new, old, or redone, and nobody's really taking any chances. And when they do, it's very, very seldom. Mm-hmm. And I think that needs to change in the space of film and books and novels, and people need to get away with what worked and start taking risks.
Yeah.
I remember a time, okay, I'm going to tell you a story where I was in this science fiction group, and I had this idea about a science fiction story about a dystopian communistic society who was working on bioengineering things, and there was cloning involved and all this other shit. He had a daughter, and for some reason or the other, they were gonna kill his family because he had fucked up. And his wife died, but he ended up compounding her consciousness, and he gave it to the daughter. Well, the daughter escaped, and he had to stay behind. That was the premise of the story, and that's what starts all this. She on the outskirts of this kind of town, because it's like there's desert and there's like the outskirts. Because in my mind, parts of the dystopian future are going to like use so much resource that there's only going to be like this Mad Max village in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
Right, and everything else is just going to be scorched earth, except for those places far enough away that have recovered by the grace of nature. Yeah. And so she gets dropped off one of these haven spots, and she runs into a bear. A bear's never seen a fucking human before, so there's a chase, and this little girl figures out how to work this conscious device that this dude took from his wife. Plugs it into the bear, and the bear becomes her mom. Okay, science fiction, because the conscious device interacts with her DNA, and you essentially get a science fiction version of that Disney movie.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
When she turns her mom into the bear and shit by accident through a spell.
I don't remember.
Brave.
Yeah, there you go.
It's called Brave.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a science fiction version of the movie Brave. And eventually he meets up with the dad. The dad gets away. And there's this like scene where the dad's talking to the bear, and it's the mom, right? But she's a bear. Like physically she's a bear. Consciously she's his wife. And there's just like kind of having a conversation about how you doing. And he was like, and it's been really rough. I wish I could kiss you right now. And at the moment I added that into the group, they were like, you shouldn't do that. Fornication between man and animal are kind of frowned upon everywhere, and that's illegal. I'm like, yeah, but we're talking about, science fiction.
Not in anime. They fuck all the time
like,
in anime.
Well, I understand that. And that's,
it's
implicate
this was fiction. Like,
this was a moment in the story where a guy was basically telling his wife that he was physically starved for affection, and she's a bear. And they were going to have this conversation about, and then talk about all the other times, and like normal people shit.
Yeah.
But as a bear, I thought it would be funny. They thought it was a little too much.
No, I'm with you on that one. I'm like, people what is it? Anamorphize animals all the time. So it's along the same lines, because it's the relationship, but putting downloading essentially the mother's consciousness into the bear. It's an interesting character. Like, no matter how you look at it,
it creates an interesting dynamic, because you can't like, if from the aspect of a human, you can't have relations with an animal, right? So there's, in Greek mythology, when you study like Zeus turned into swans and eagles, even a fucking bull, okay? Midas's wife.
Horny
right?
bull. Horny bull.
like that talk about interracial stuff all the time, and then you go into Egyptology where they had all these what do they call them, half man, half serpent, half man, half bird, if you like Thoth and shit.
Well, they
They called
also
them surrogate.
they didn't like worship animals, but they did have like a sacred bull. And then they had like even the Greeks
though,
had a sphinx that would ask you a riddle.
Yeah.
I love that mythology because I'm going through another mythology book, but the Sphinx asks a riddle.
Yeah.
It's like what starts off in the morning on 4 legs, and by midday is on 2, and then in the evening on 3. And he says, "Man, what does the Sphinx do? Jump off a fucking cliff." Like that was not a hard riddle, bud. That's what you choose to commit suicide? I have dishonored my family. Ah!
From my perspective, though, it added a level of conflict to the relationship between those two characters, but also to the overall premise of the story. Period.
Mm-hmm.
Because it became about getting away, and then all of a sudden it became about saving the mom. So I mean,
from flight
that conversation
to survival.
Yeah. Right. And it wasn't about like, oh, I wonder what a dude would do if he could fuck a bear. It wasn't like that at all.
Well, no,
That's
it's
how
about
people
that
were taking
survival aspect because as a human being, we're social creatures. So if you had that option to have a social interaction when you're surviving, especially my mom's consciousness is in this fucking card. Man, upload, bitch. Why not? Mom, let's go. We gotta go.
Yeah, but it's totally socially acceptable if it's in a movie with a computer and a dude, right?
Look, if I had the option, I would totally upgrade my mother's consciousness to a bear. All right, I would because I love her that much. Savages.
Yeah.
You gonna what? You gonna let your mom die? No, my mom's gonna live on in a bear. If it's the first thing I run across. I mean, if not, dog, bird. Maybe I want my mom to soar like an eagle. It's gonna be a weird conversation with the zoo, but you know what? Mom's gonna be taken care of. I can go visit her whenever I want as long as they're still open. All right, Mom got sold to San Diego. It's gonna be a longer trip this Christmas.
That'd be fucked up. All right, Mom, I need you to go scout the next town that we're about to go stay in. Let us know what's going on.
Mom just flies to the window hey, your friend's here. Thanks, Mom. Walk downstairs. You leave your window open.
Full circle. My point is like people aren't open to new ideas because it goes against normals. We're like, if we can't have new ideas, what's the point of having regulations on anything? Period. I guess he smells a consciousness somewhere.
Dude, he gets weirded
He's volunteering.
He gets weirded out by ghosts sometimes. I call it ghost. There's nothing there. Nothing ever, no sound, nothing ever happens. And he just freaks out like, I figure it's the ghost. He's just getting freaked out by the ghost. My brother experienced ghosts. They're real.
Ectoplasmic friend.
Just look, man, you got a lot of shit going over to the other realm, apparently. You got to work that shit out.
I think people should be open to new ideas, and I think the industry should change and be open to new ideas. I mean, you see it in the short film space all the time.
Yes.
Willem Dafoe did an amazing fucking short film where he ended up being this robotic like AI consciousness type thing.
Former guest of the show, Injetta Anthony, Supreme Beings and Creatures of Necessity, both his movies. Indie films, indie award-winning films, I should say. Multiple award-winning film director and writer, Injetta Anthony, my friend. So, with Creatures of Necessity, it's a kidnap story gone wrong. And by the end, you're like, what the fuck? Because it's not a normal hostage movie. It's like what you're saying. Supreme Beings taking mythology and saying, all right, Percy, sit the fuck over there. I'm going to show you what I can do. And taking something and making something new out of something old. Yeah. So it's right along the lines. And if any of our fans are wondering how good they are, hop right over onto Amazon, man. You'll be able to see them both because they are so great. I love his movies all the time. And he's working on his next one. So I always talk about my buddy, Tony. So But that's the thing. It's just what you're saying. You need to take risks, especially when you're creating a new IP, because that's how you're not going to get stuck in that formulaic series. And that's where a lot more independent creators or indie creators are having a lot of success, and a lot of fans are going to them, especially even in the horror market for, movie and films and TV. Indie right there. And they're doing great work. Just like my buddy Johnny Necro, Jason Pitts. They're all doing stuff that are moving their section forward and that are really inspiring people. They're inspiring me. All my guests inspire me. And that's because we are all creatives and we all have this same dream of creating something that wasn't there before. We are literary magicians.
Yeah.
We create something that didn't exist. Now, is it a water ball spell or is it a water shooter spell? Well, you're still shooting bubbles of water at something. It's, are you creating a typhoon or are you just doing that simple water spell? There's that level of magician's skill and level that people are, it's, you have to put in your 10,000 hours. But after that, you got to do another 10, and you got to do another 10, and you got to keep going at it. It's a never stopping struggle of staying on top. But with being creative, it's just doing what's in here and what you've already been doing. It's just expanding your creative expression. Is expanding your, just talent, everything that you're doing. You're just improving to your core level what you can do. You can only focus yourself on so many things, but if this is your passion, you can keep reading and keep expanding. Just try not to be that thing you read. Try to be the new thing. Well, I was inspired by these things, but that's how we got here.
Yeah, never credit anything that you didn't really do the work for you. You still do the work.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if I read a book on 10 things to make me a millionaire, if I became a millionaire, I would attribute some of that success to that book. But
I read this book.
I did nothing after I read that book,
followed what it said, and look at me, I'm a millionaire. Yeah, that's how it happened. Yeah, exactly.
But it essentially becomes a tool.
Well, some of the common stuff, like, I was always a fan of sci-fi. I love Star Wars, I love Star Trek, I love Battlestar Galactica, and now I came up with Spaceball Licorice 5000, and you guys all love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's really great. Everyone loves Spaceball Licorice.
With an I, not a Y.
The Pornhub algorithm.
Here comes a wet adventure.
Oh my God, man, we've gone everywhere again.
Oh yeah,
everywhere,
silly little podcast,
all over at once. Just a silly little podcast telling you guys.
Like two guys watching a fucking window. I'm talking about today.
Hey, I saw this article. I saw this. And we go through it, gang. This is what we do here on Silly Little Podcast. Just two silly little podcasters having fun, talking, bullshitting, letting you know about what people say, what they think they know. And then we tell you it's all bullshit and to just be yourself. And game on. I mean, there's a lot more, but you do have to play the game. So that's kind of part of it. Yeah. Normally I end with that. See, you thought I was going
to happen to find out what it tastes like. Dude. Go to Progenger's on Facebook. Let us know.
What does a Progenger taste like? Kind of gamey.
That's a good question. On any day I don't take a shower, probably sour. I didn't mean for that to rhyme, but it happened.
Oh, man, that mattered. I didn't care if you intended it or not. That statement mattered.
That statement. Yeah. On any day I didn't shower.
We got a lot of great stuff coming out. We got a lot of fun podcasts coming in the future. There's a lot of news coming out. And when you guys see something, you're like, oh, wow, this happened. You can trust. We're going to talk about it right here on this silly little podcast. So we want everybody to go over to facebook.com/PJANDWH, as well as going to PJANDWH.com, where you're going to find all of the latest and greatest of all the Purge Hangers and Wall Hangers content, like the recently released Lug Nuts podcast, which will be coming up again shortly for all of your viewing entertainment, as well as all the podcasts and content that we have coming out on the Purge Hangers and Wall Hangers Media Network. Once you go to Amazon and type in Picture Perfect Small Towns, York and Media, PA, that's where you can buy my first book. And the second book will be coming to a bookstore near you shortly, which is Picture Perfect Small Towns, Delco, Volume 1. And it's going to be in the Widener's bookstore. It's going to be in the Swarthmore bookstore. It's going to be, it is already, my first book is in Game and DVD Exchange over in Media, PA. Longtime friends of the show. Longtime friends of the podcast company. So we love them over there. We love them. Everybody who's selling my books and everybody's selling all of our projects and looking at all of our stuff. We, of course, have the docu-series coming out sometime this year. Life of an Indie Pro Wrestler. Tony Yolanda, Tita La Crema. And big in the WWC, he's, obviously he's going to be all over the indie pro wrestling market, but you can see his internal life and what it is like for Tony Yolanda, the champ. What is it like for the champ? Well, you're going to find it only in one place, Wall Jangers, right here on PJANDWH.com and the Purge Hangers and Wall Hangers Media Network. My long promo to end off our show because we have to obviously promote ourselves. But been a great podcast as always, my brother. Until we do it again, fans, just know that we love you, we miss you, and we want to see you next week. Until then, game on, boys and girls. Bye-bye.
Bye.